Is the shirt really worth that? Hell fucking no. Today, we're gonna be talking about how pro triathletes make money. We're gonna cover the obvious ones like prize money, sponsorships, but we'll go a little bit more in depth like crypto and coaching and how that stuff works. I also want to address some of the common misconceptions. All pro triathletes or cyclists or endurance athletes are making absolute bank. The reality is probably 95% are just scraping by. 4% are doing decent, like if they had a desk job, and then 1% are absolutely raking it in. So, I mean, it's gonna be an interesting video, and I'll try to highlight everything. Let's get into it. Two main ones that we would talk about are sponsorships, prize money. I think those are pretty self-explanatory, just because we all know that races have prize purses, and that's why professional athletes show up to them. And then we also know that we rock hella logos all over us for money, or sometimes not money. But that's generally the basis for sponsorships. But this video is gonna be about giving you insight into more creative ways that pros are making a living, because those two are pretty obvious. This one is probably gonna shock you a little bit, but this is pro triathletes working a full-time desk job. Now, I actually did this for 1.5 years, and it's not as bad as it seems, where, you know, you go into work, you usually do a training session before, and then around lunchtime, you'll do another training session. And in the evening, if you have a third training session for the day, you're gonna do another one there. It's definitely possible, it's hard, and it'll for sure ruin your life a little bit, but you can do it for maybe 1 year or 2. All pro triathletes seem to do this, and that is coaching. Whether it's publicly shaming themselves on the internet, being like, oh my God, hire me as a coach. I've got 2 open spots this month. I'd love to fill it with some passionate athletes. Or you're just working for a coaching business where someone helps you find athletes, and then you get a little bit of money from the coaching, and that can help pay for travel to races. It totally varies based on the person, who you're coaching, where you're located, and all of that fun stuff. All right, and now this is a pretty fun income stream. This is all of the different race venues paying you an appearance fee. Now, this is pretty rare unless you're a really top athlete or a mega influencer like me. It's really an interesting one because some races will pay people $10,000, $20,000 just to show up, regardless of whether or not they finish. And this can range. Now, some athletes will get a hotel paid for, or they'll get your hotel and travel, or you'll get hotel travel food, or you'll get hotel travel fat check. And if you're Jan Frodeno, you're gonna get that flight business class, but you have to keep in mind that it's pretty tough to get these, and certain race organizers will give you these regardless of a lot of things, and certain organizers, Ironman, will never give you any. So now I wanna get into one of the more entrepreneurial side of things. So there are some athletes out there with a pretty big following, like Sam Long, for example, and they're able to set up clothing lines through their sponsors, and where they can make a commission off of those sales. And then they also do a custom apparel order. So maybe Sam Long selling his yo-yo-yo shirt for $35. And is the shirt really worth that? Hell no. Hell no, that shit's not worth it. But you're gonna buy it because you like him and you're gonna support him as an athlete. Okay, we're off the beaten path. We're gonna get into the fun one, crypto. Now, I'm not gonna name names, but there is a famous ITU athlete who's been to the Olympics and won a world title very recently, who is rumored to have cashed out over $400,000 in Bitcoin. Now, most triathletes aren't cashing out 400K in Bitcoin, but this is probably the most interesting way to make passive income. The next category that we're gonna get into is a really, really fun one, and that's credit card debt. Now, this can only really apply to people in the US, because in America, we get to spend money that we don't have really, really easily, which is one of the reasons why we have a several $trillion national debt probably, but that's neither here nor there. But I will say there are several pro triathletes who are rumored to have racked up some rather large credit card bills over their days. Parents. Now, the parental units are key when it comes to supporting professional triathletes in many, many, many cases. Actually, I would argue that basically every single pro triathlete has been propped up by their parents at some point or another in their athletic career, whether that's youth sports or even well into their late 20s if they're living at home still just trying to make it work. It's hard to argue that most pro triathletes have gotten a lot of help from their parents. There are people who are from very well-off families, and money will never be an issue in them getting their way to the top. So they might never get there, but money will never be the thing that stops them from getting to the top of the sport. Athletes are able to depend on their parents, and their parents will usually be well enough off, because triathlon is a super expensive sport, and in order to be successful successful, you need money to do it. It is a pay-to-play sport 100%. So as you can all tell, there are quite a few ways that you can make absolute bank or go into debt to fund your triathloning. I'm not gonna give financial advice on how to do it or tell anyone really how I do it. Everyone has a different way of making it work. And I think that's part of the fun. Identifying that it's a challenge, it's like the racing is, funding yourself is also a challenge. In conclusion, I hope I went through all the different ways that you can make money doing professional triathlon. I tried to give a pretty general overview of what it's like in terms of the financial side of the game. It's different for athletes of all different levels. Ask me any questions and I'm happy to answer them.